Greetings from Tokyo, my dear friends. This is Daisuke, and I hope all of you are doing very well today. So, it is now April 17th, 2019. A couple days ago, the Criterion Collection made its announcement for its planned releases for July 2019. So, very quickly, let me please share with you my thoughts about such announcement. Before I continue, let me please take the opportunity to give a quick hello to my friend and our dear friend, Jared. So Jared, thank you so much, my dear friend. You are always such a great commenter. I love your comments. I love your enthusiasm. Jared Wignall, my dear friend. And you mentioned last week, I think, about David Lynch films, and in particular, The Elephant Man. And so I took the opportunity to watch The Elephant Man on my trusty DVD, which is right here. And so thank you very much. Yes, you are right. It is quite an emotional, it has an emotional punch to it, that's for sure. And so thank you very much for reminding me of the film's greatness. Jared, my dear friend, I hope you're well. And to all of you out there, he is a really great guy, Jared, and he always writes these wonderful comments on many of my videos, and it's a pleasure to read his great comments because he's so detailed and so thoughtful. And he has a real down-to-earth approach, which is, I think, such a lovely breath of fresh air, if I do say so myself, because he is so filled with energy and, you know, that vitality of youth, you know what I mean? And yet he is so open-minded and considerate and just so, how should I put it, his eagerness to express his love for cinema is really quite astonishing. So, Jared, my dear friend, thank you so much, and thank you very much for your push to get me to rewatch The Elephant Man. I think it was really worth it. So, my friend, I hope you're well. And so now, let me go over, if I may, very quickly, the planned releases for July 2019 that were announced by the Criterion Collection not a couple of days ago. And so I have my computer set up here, so let's just go over them one at a time, shall we? So let's start with this one, which is Europa Europa. Now, this is the film by Agnieszka Holland, and so this is a very interesting film indeed. This is spine number 985, and this is going to be released on July 8th, 2019. I'm sorry, July 9th, 2019. And we have the cover art over here. So I remember seeing this film many years back, and I think it was on during the VHS days. It is if I recall correctly, it was a very surprising and quite harrowing and effective film because of its subject matter. And so I think its emergence in the Criterion Collection is going to be quite welcome indeed. I think this will be met with a lot of positive reaction from the community because of the strength of the subject matter alone, and also because of the great filmography pedigree that accompanies a filmmaker with the great prowess and just sublime skill and craft and genius as Agnieszka Holland possesses. So this is a fantastic, tremendous announcement from the Criterion Collection. So I'm very excited. If we look here, it says that it's going to be a new 2K digital restoration. So this is very interesting. And also there's an audio commentary from 2008. So I'm not sure what the history of the release history of this particular film is. So, but if it's from 2008, obviously it's from an earlier release of this film. And then there are new interviews with director Holland and actor Marco Hofschneider. So he's the star of the film, and new interviews. So I'm assuming these are going to be Criterion produced. So that should be very interesting. And then there's a new video essay by film scholar Annette Insdorf, which should also be very interesting, plus new English subtitle translation, and an essay by Amy Taubin. So this is going to be a great release, and I recommend that you all take a look at this film. Now, I'm not sure about the Criterion channel, the streaming service. Maybe it's going to be available there. So if you're interested in watching it first on the streaming service, if it is indeed available, then I would highly suggest it. But this is going to be, for me anyway, a no-brainer. I usually buy the Criterion new releases on pre-order anyway, but this one has me particularly excited. So Europa Europa. And let me just say here, for Europa Europa, I just turned the computer over on its side here. Sorry for the poor presentation, but you can get a better look of the cover art if you go directly to the Criterion website. But this is cover art for Europa Europa by Gérard Dubois. It is very much, this is actually a very, well, I don't want to say anything if you haven't seen the film, but for those of you who have seen the film, you probably are of the same opinion as I, which is this is very much capturing the essence of what this film is about in a quite a striking way, I should add. So I'm very much in support of this particular artwork. So for Europa Europa. Next, also planned to be released on July 9th, 2019, the Blu-ray version of the BRD Trilogy. This is, I think, something that many people, many fans of the Criterion Collection have been waiting for a long time. And the reason for that is this set of films, the so-called BRD Trilogy, from the director Rainer Werner Fassbinder, was on a lovely DVD set, which is right here. So this is the DVD set, and the Blu-ray set is going to be coming in July. The DVD set is currently out of print, and so it's great news. And the DVD set here is, the set itself is spine number 203, with the films Marriage of Maria Braun, Veronica Voss, and Lola. So, and then plus another disc with special features. But this Blu-ray set is very welcome because, again, this is an indication of Criterion bringing back a set that had fallen out of print. Now, I think there had been a lot of rumor, many of which being substantiated, obviously, to the extent that Criterion had somehow let this fall out of print, but it had never lost the rights to distribution. And so if that's the case, then it wasn't necessarily a matter of reacquiring the rights as to just timing the release of its Blu-ray set accordingly. Now, again, I'm not an insider, so I'm not sure as to the details of the particular licensing agreement that Criterion entered into with the license holders of these particular films. But be that as it may, I think for whatever reason, this fell out of print. But now that the Blu-ray is coming, it's going to be a great thing indeed. And again, these films, The Marriage of Maria Braun, Veronica Voss and Lola, I think constitute a set of films that are, I would say from my point of view, very, I think they constitute films that are very accessible in the context of Fassbinder's filmography, at least from my point of view. At the same time, they speak a lot towards the notion of Germany at the time, and there is something very inherently powerful about the themes and messages that are being portrayed in each of these films respectively. And so with that in mind, I think that the fact that these are being made available is grand news. I'm so excited about this. Now, of course, there are other releases by other labels. I'm thinking in particular of Arrow Academy, but it's always nice to see something come back into the Criterion collection, is it not? So this is something to be celebrated, and I am looking forward to it very much. And I think also the cover art is more or less the same, except I think the earlier release, the DVD release, had the line logo up top, Criterion Collection line logo, whereas here, if we scroll in, we can see that it has the wacky C in the corner here. Sorry for the bad resolution, but you can see here. So it's the wacky C adorning the corner, the top corner of the box cover art. And then if we look, we can see just very quickly that each film is going to be listed here. So we have Marriage of Maria Braun, which is the DVD here. So the cover art is apparently the same. And then we have, let's see, Veronica Voss. And the cover art for the DVD here. So it looks like it's going to be the same cover art. And then we have Lola. And as you can see, the cover art is the same. So it looks like the Blu-ray set is going to be 3 discs. And if you recall, the DVD set, the earlier set, had been 4 discs plus the booklet. And it looks like, according to what's being featured here on the Criterion page, it looks like the supplements seem to be the same, carried over, at least as far as I can tell. So let's just take a look here. Yes, so we have the 4K digital restorations of The Marriage of Maria Braun and Lola. And then we have a high-definition digital restoration of Veronica Voss. So that's interesting for me. Now, I'm not sure what that means. It says new 4K digital restorations for Marriage of Maria Braun and Lola, but it doesn't have the same indication for the film Veronica Voss. So I'm not sure. Does this mean that the transfer for Veronica Voss is the same that was on the DVD? Because the DVD actually also indicates new high-definition digital transfer. So I'm not sure. That's something we should keep in mind when we get the Blu-ray set of the BRD Trilogy. And then the audio commentaries seem to be the same that appeared on the DVD sets. So we have Wim Wenders and Michael Ballhaus for The Marriage of Maria Braun, and then Tony Raines for Veronica Voss, and Christian Brad Thomsen for Lola. So that seems to be intact. And then we also have interviews with the stars of the film, so Hanna Shigula and Rosel Zek and Barbara Sukova. And these seem to be carried over into the Blu-ray set as well. And then the interviews on the DVD set with, cinematographer interviews, screenwriter, and scholar interviews are carried over as well, plus the Life Stories interview, plus the feature-length documentary, I Don't Just Want You to Love Me. So this is also included. Plus there's the 1-hour documentary called Dance with Death, which is also carried over. And then there is a conversation with Lawrence Kardish, who is a senior curator of MoMA's Film and Media Department. And that also seems to be carried over because this is a conversation with Fassbinder film editor Julian Lorenz, plus the booklet, which has essays which seem to be paralleling or carrying over the essays from this book. So this seems to be more or less what we saw in the earlier DVD set, except that the transfers for The Marriage of Maria Braun and for Lola seem to be new 4K digital restorations. And so that should be something to look forward to indeed. But in any event, we have the return of the BRD Trilogy to the Criterion Collection. And indeed, it is a welcome return. I'm very excited about this. Next, scheduled for release July 16th, 2019, spine number 987, Clute. Clute. This is one of those exciting films, and Jane Fonda and Donald Sutherland are just dynamic as they've ever been. And to have this film in the collection, I think, is quite a marvelous thing. Let me just show you this cover here, if I may. The cover for this, the cover art here, I think, is quite astounding. I'm just so amazed by this. Let's just go like this, actually. There we go. There we go. Let me just do it in portrait mode. There we go. Sorry about this, but this cover art, I think it's indicated as being designed by Jay Shaw. I am in love with this cover art very much. I think it has a lot of stylistic choices here that I think are very indicative of the film. And for those of you who've seen the film, I think you might know what I'm talking about. But this is great. It looks great. I can't wait to see it in the flesh, as it were. So if we look here at what's being offered, we have a new restored 4K digital transfer, and this is supervised by camera operator Michael Chapman. And then we have new conversation between actors Jane Fonda and Ileana Douglas. Great. A new documentary about Clute and the director Alan J. Pakula. And then there's another interview called The Look of Clute, Amy Fine Collins. That should be very interesting. Then archival interviews with Pakula and Fonda. Clute in New York, a short documentary made during the shooting of the film, plus an essay by critic Mark Harris and excerpts from a 1972 interview with Pakula. This is a wonderfully, how shall I put it? It has a wonderful sense of that unease that is so typical and so beautifully typical of these sorts of thriller-type films from the early 70s United States. And so this has that lovely flavor of that kind of thick paranoia, if you will. So I think if you haven't seen the film, I think you will find it to be very intriguing. Of course, it's centered by the truly remarkable and dynamic performance of the powerful and brilliant Jane Fonda in this. And so this is one that I can't wait to watch it again. This is one of those films where I've seen a lot, but I've never owned, and so it'll be a great thing to actually own it again, or not again, but to watch it again, but own it for the first time. So I can't wait for this. But Clute, very exciting. Also scheduled for July 16th, 2019 release, spine number 986. This is The Baker's Wife. And as you can see, the cover art is Manuel Fior, and the cover art here is, excuse me for the glare, but the cover art here is quite intriguing. It has that nice, I don't know if quaint is the right word, but it has a nice a warmth to it, And again, the way it's showing up on the video here is not so good, so I apologize for that. But I think you can get a sense of it when you look at the Criterion website. But there is a how should I put it? There is a nice charm about this film, which is filled with a lot of observations about the intricacies of human nature vis-a-vis certain relationships or the context of relationships. And so this film, which is by Pagnol, I think will be one that is very welcome, especially for those who might be familiar with the earlier release by the Criterion Collection of, let's say, the Marseille Trilogy or something. I remember seeing this film on a VHS tape in my school many, many years ago, and I haven't seen it since. And so I'm not the biggest expert in this particular area of French cinema, but I do remember watching this film and I do remember enjoying it. But it should be a welcome return for me to this film after many, many years. So this is a very interesting announcement for me. Can't wait to purchase it. But the special features here are a new 4K digital restoration, which should be very exciting, plus a selected scene audio commentary featuring Pagnol scholar Brett Bowles, plus introduction by Pagnol from 1967, an excerpt from a 1966 interview with Pagnol for the French television series Cinéaste de notre temps, short French news program from 1967 revisiting the village of Le Castellet where the film was shot, plus subtitle translation, and an essay by film scholar Jeanette Vincendeux. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, The Baker's Wife. Scheduled for release July 23rd, 2019. 1984. Michael Radford, 1984. Now, this is very intriguing. Now, look at this cover, first of all. Look at that cover. Isn't that something? That is truly something. I'm quite in awe of this cover, and it's very evocative and it's suggestive of the kind of film it's going to be. And for those of you who know this film, I think you would probably agree with that. And so this cover art, if I may see, it says by Fred Davis. Okay, so that should be very interesting. So Fred Davis cover art. So this is great. Roger Deakins, of course, and John Hurt, of course, based on the novel, the very famous work by George Orwell. 1984 is a film that I think I admit to liking the film, but I like the Orwell work a little bit more. Now, that is also to say that I haven't seen the film in many, many years as well. I don't own the film. I know there have been many other releases in the past. I think perhaps one of the most prominent ones being from Twilight Time, but I don't have that. And I know this film has a certain release history, and there's some controversies with respect to the way it's presented visually, in terms of its color palette, and also in terms of its soundtrack. So I know that there are a couple of quote-unquote controversies. I know, however, that this Criterion release is a new 4K digital restoration supervised by Roger Deakins, a cinematographer, with uncompressed monaural soundtrack on the Blu-ray. And so if it's indicated as being supervised by Roger Deakins, then I can probably assume that this means that if I understand it correctly, his intention was to have a color palette that was rather muted or faded or drab, drained of color, not so saturated with color. And so I know that the film had been released in versions with such drabness of color, so to speak. But I know also that there were accounts of showings of this film, maybe on TV or elsewhere, where the color was a little bit more saturated, which suggests to me that there might be some issue with some color saturation. But if this is going to be supervised by Roger Deakins, then perhaps we might expect the drab version. I'm not sure. It doesn't quite say. So this is something that we can look forward to when the film is released by the Criterion Collection. Then there are new interviews with the director Radford and Deakins. So this should be very interesting. It indicates new, so this means probably that this is going to be a Criterion produced feature. Very good. So I hope they go into the details about the production. It's very fascinating. And then there's a new interview with David Ryan, author of George Orwell on Screen. So this should be very interesting too. I'm not familiar with the work of David Ryan, but there should be a learning experience for me. Then behind the scenes footage, trailer, plus an essay by writer and performer A.L. Kennedy. Now, there is nothing here that indicates anything about what the soundtrack options will be, because as some of you may know, the music there's a certain bit of controversy surrounding the music. There is music that was composed by Dominic Moldoni, but there were also pieces of music that were composed by the group Eurythmics. Now, there are some versions where I understand it's just the Moldoni soundtrack, but there are other versions where many parts of the underlying soundtrack were replaced with Eurythmics. And so I understand that there are different versions. And I think it was, am I correct in saying that, is it the Twilight Time version? I don't have the version, so please correct me if my understanding is incorrect. But maybe it was a Twilight Time version that had the option of either you can listen to one audio soundtrack version or the other audio soundtrack version. So I think there are two soundtrack versions that have been made commercially available. And that's as far as I know. Again, I'm not an expert in the production history of this particular film. And it doesn't look like there is any indication, at least on the Criterion website, as to what the soundtrack versions will be made available. Yes, there's nothing in the special edition features. But it does say director-approved special edition features, right? It does say director-approved special edition features. So that might suggest, if I get my details correct, it might suggest that Director Radford might be, well, again, let me take that back. It says director-approved special features. It doesn't necessarily mean director-approved presentation of the film, although I think we might reasonably assume that Michael Radford probably had a hand in let's say, observing what Criterion was planning to do with the release. So if that is any indication, I understand that Director Radford preferred the Moldoni soundtrack version over the use of Eurythmics. At least that's my understanding. And so if that's the case, then perhaps this will be the soundtrack version without Eurythmics. I'm not sure. But again, this is something that we should keep an eye on, or at least an ear on, when the soundtrack, or when the film is released by the Criterion Collection. Or if any of you have any information about this already, maybe you've already heard something from Criterion directly, I'm not sure, please let me know, and I'd love to get some clarification about this particular point. As it so happens, at least as far as I can tell on the Criterion website, there isn't much clarity on this point, and so I'd like to know what is being done about the soundtrack versions, if anything at all. But regardless of the soundtrack, though, I think as far as a film presentation of this particular story goes, again, as I said, I like the film, but I love the book more. But I'm very happy to revisit this film again, because I haven't seen it in many, many years. So perhaps upon my revisit, my assessment of the work might change. So that's always something to look forward to. Anyway, my friends, 1984. Also scheduled for release July 23rd, 2019, Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee. This is, of course, already in the Criterion collection right now. This is Spine number 97, and this is the DVD. So we have, and excuse me, here it's the 2-disc DVD from the Criterion collection. Now, there have been other releases of this particular film on non-Criterion labels, on Blu-ray, for instance, and I don't have any of those releases, so I only have the Do the Right Thing Criterion DVD release from, I think it was 2000, I think it was, what was it? It was, I want to say, yes, I think the release was 2000, yes, so this was some time back, and I think for the most part we have a carryover of all of the supplements that appeared on the DVD, although it's not quite clear. Let's just look very quickly at what's being offered. So we have a new 4K digital restoration approved by cinematographer Ernest Dickerson. So that's something that's new for this new release from Criterion. But then we have audio commentary from 1995 featuring director Spike Lee and others. And so this appears to be the same commentary track that is on this Criterion release. I should say also that I understand that the subsequent non-Criterion Blu-ray of Do the Right Thing has another commentary track by director Spike Lee himself, which doesn't appear to be included on this Criterion Blu-ray upgrade release from that's scheduled for July 2019. And so that might suggest that for those of you who have that Blu-ray release, I think it's like the 20th anniversary release or something like that, I might suggest, and I think there might be an earlier Blu-ray release as well, although correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like that has a commentary track that is not going to be included on this new Blu-ray from Criterion. So I would suggest that you hold on to that if you own it. Then there are, let's see, introductions by Spike Lee from the DVD set, and that also appears on the Blu-ray. Then there's a making of documentary, which also appears here. The DVD and the Blu-ray are the same. And then then we have, the Blu-ray then says, new interviews with costume designer Ruthie Carter, camera assistant Darnell Martin, and New York City Council member Robert Cornegy Jr. and writer Nelson George. So this appears to be something new. It doesn't appear to be on the DVD set. Yes, I don't recall it being on the DVD set. So these new interviews are obviously something new and probably going to be Criterion produced for this particular Blu-ray release. Then going back to the DVD, there was an interview with editor Barry Alexander Brown, and that seems to be carried over into the Blu-ray release as well. And then the Blu-ray here says programs from 2000 and 2009 featuring Lee and members of the cast and crew. Now, I'm not sure what this is referring to specifically. It does say 2000, so I can assume that perhaps that refers to some of the supplements that appeared on this Criterion DVD release, such as Spike Lee revisiting certain of the locations, and also there was some other behind-the-scenes footage. So I'm not sure. Perhaps that's what this is referring to here, but again, I'm not sure. But then also the website also indicates programs from 2009, and so that seems to suggest that there might be some supplements from other releases that weren't from the original Criterion DVD release, because again, this release was from, I think, 2000, and so programs from 2009 would be, I would assume, supplements that came after the fact. So that should be very interesting. Then there's a music video for Public Enemy's Fight the Power, and that's carried over from the DVD. Then there's behind-the-scenes footage, which I can probably assume is likely going to be a carryover from the behind-the-scenes footage from the DVD. Then there are originally storyboards, trailer and TV spots, and that's probably going to be carried over from the DVD as well. This also says deleted and extended scenes. Now, I don't recall the deleted and extended scenes being included on the DVD set. Right? I haven't looked at this in a while, but I don't recall those being there. Please correct me if my recollection is incorrect, but maybe I think the deleted and extended scenes footage probably appeared on the later non-Criterion Blu-ray release. For those of you who own that, please, if you wouldn't mind, could you confirm that for me? So that seems to be, this could be something that is carried over from another release, or it could be something that Criterion maybe created based on the same underlying materials that those other Blu-ray supplemental releases relied upon. Who knows? But in any event, it says deleted and extended scenes. And then there's essay by critic Vincent Cunningham. And on the Blu-ray, extensive excerpts from the journal Lee kept during the preparation for and production of the film. So it looks like, yes, this is going to be new material, because the DVD Criterion release had an essay by Roger Ebert, and so this looks like it's going to be something new for the new Blu-ray. And then of course you have the cover art. It says here, new cover featuring a mural painted by Danielle Mastrion, and so there you go. Do the right thing. Look at that. There you go. Excuse me for the darkness here, but you can see there's the difference in the cover art. Which one do you prefer? I think the new cover art is absolutely lovely, fantastic, and it's quite nice. Don't get me wrong, I think the DVD cover art is okay. It's not bad. Of course, it's Spike Lee is featured on the cover. He has a very prominent role, as you know. But there's something very, I'm not sure. There's something very striking about this new cover art for the Blu-ray. Something quite eye-catching almost immediately. It's bright and red, and it feels like it's lived in. It's hot. You know, I'm very much welcome to this particular cover art. Well, let's do the right thing. And of course, as a film, I should say that the film is, if you haven't seen it, it is really one of those remarkable films, truly remarkable. You know, I remember the great just exhilaration I felt when I first saw the film. I was shocked. I was mesmerized. I couldn't believe what I was seeing for some of those scenes, and it was funny, and it was bold, and it was one of those films where you could really feel the heat just seeping off of the screen and just entering your very pores, you know, and it just added to that whole sense of pressure and destiny almost. Truly magnificent work of art that is Do the Right Thing. So I can't wait to see this. Can't wait to see this new Blu-ray from the Criterion Collection. So this is the lineup for July 2019. What do I think of it? I am, I would say, most excited for Clute and Europa Europa. I am then excited for The Baker's Wife, and I am intrigued by what might be happening with the presentation of 1984. Again, I'm not sure what the details are for the exact presentation, visually speaking, and also in terms of its soundtrack, so I'm looking forward to getting more information as it comes, if it's not already available. I think for a lot of people, we will see a lot of excitement for the upgrades, or the re-releases, if you will, of Do the Right Thing and the BRD Trilogy, the Fassbinder Trilogy. And in particular, the Fassbinder Trilogy, because this, as I said, was an out-of-print DVD set for a long time. And I think people were waiting for the Blu-ray release because people heard the rumors that Criterion still had the rights. And so this is a very exciting day indeed, because I think it also suggests the possibility, at the very least, that there might be more OOP box sets that could be on the horizon. Who knows? There are a number of box sets that are really great, DVD box sets, that are now out of print. And so I would join the chorus of supporters of this particular notion or theory or wish or hope or wish list, however you like to describe it, with respect to those box sets that are currently out of print. So who knows, fingers crossed. Let's see what happens. I should also point out that I think this is the first month where we haven't seen an Ingmar Bergman film on an individual release. If I recall, the last one we saw was, what was it? It was the Ingmar Bergman trilogy, if I recall correctly. So it was Through a Glass Darkly and Winterlight and The Silence. And we also saw earlier individual releases of films like Shame and The Magic Flute, etc. And also we saw other upgrades. But I don't think we are seeing any Ingmar Bergman individual releases here, right? So I'm not sure what that means, because it might mean, well, I don't want to say anything more about that, because I don't think it's necessarily conclusive either way. But it is an interesting observation to make that there are no Bergman individual releases here. Also, I should say that however, there seems to be this trend of bringing back or upgrading releases that had hitherto been just DVDs or been OOP DVDs or the like. And so this month is, of course, Do the Right Thing and the BRD Trilogy. So that should be very exciting, quite exciting indeed. It, of course, brings a lot of hope and excitement for future announcements. And I should say also that we are approaching, slowly but surely, my friends, we are approaching the Spine 1000 mark. Now, I have made a couple of remarks about this in the past, about what might be expected for Spine 1000, if anything at all. Who knows? It could just be a quote-unquote normal release from Criterion. Who knows? But there is some anticipation in the air, I think. And so let's keep a lookout in the future for the possibility of any information with respect to some kind of special, super deluxe, whatever it may be, release for Spine 1000. And whatever the film is, I'm not sure what it could be, but whatever it is, it should be something that is filling the air in the community with much excitement and lively debate. I think there are a number of films that are worthy contenders, but anyway, let's just keep our fingers crossed and our eyes open for any information. But as far as these July 2019 releases go, I am, again, just very much in awe of Criterion. Criterion never fails to surprise me. So this is, again, no exception to that. So well done, Criterion. Well done indeed. What, may I ask, are your reactions and thoughts to the July 2019 slate? Are you disappointed? Are you excited? Are you excited for anything in particular? Are you very excited for some things over others? Are there films that you've seen, or are there films you haven't seen that you want to pick up immediately? Are you going to buy these immediately? Are you going to pre-order them? Are you going to wait for the next sale? Who knows? I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments, my friends, because that is how we can work out and discuss and debate all these great topics that have to do with cinema and, of course, the Criterion Collection. So if you have any thoughts or comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, my friends, please be well, be happy and safe. Please keep watching a lot of films. I know for a number of you, you are well on your way with respect to the Criterion channel, and that is great. I'm so happy for you. If you have any discoveries that you've made and you want to share them with me, I'd love to hear about them. So please feel free to leave a comment below or on another video. And is there anything else? I think that's it for me from now. So until we meet again, my friends, please be happy and healthy and well. Please, please, please keep on watching a lot of great, great films. Cheers, my friends.